Smoke from barbecue pits floats back through time, connecting us to a 300-year heritage, both real and romanticized. Barbecue is more than just food. It's part of our very identity as North Carolinians, a cultural icon, if you will. But I started doing regular segments on barbecue places around North Carolina, not for those reasons, but because people love talking about barbecue, maybe even more than they love eating it. I figured I could really get into something that involved both talking and eating. When it came to the talking part, I soon became known as Bob Garner. In the control room, they started mocking me.
This is delicious.
Our aim here is not only to get you educated about North Carolina barbecue, but to tell you about 25 of the best, most interesting barbecue places in the state. Now, I know I probably missed a few here and there, and anyway, it's also subjective. Your opinion is certainly as good as mine, so if I skipped your favorite place, well, I guess I'll hear about it. One place, Mebbin's A&M Grill, didn't want to be included. We had to go in undercover with a home video camera.
The A&M Grill is one of those out-of-the-way little finds that really is worthwhile. You should check it out. But please, don't tell anyone where you heard about it.
Did I get sick of barbecue? Well, you would think so. Instead, I got addicted. Between checking out restaurants, I found myself eating barbecue sandwiches behind the wheel. And it wasn't just me. The crews got hooked too. Like with those ribs at B's in Greenville. B's is a little place on the outskirts of town where the cars park on the sides of the road when the parking lot gets full, and where you'll probably have to stand in line whether you decide to eat inside or outside. B's serves delicious Eastern North Carolina whole hog barbecue, but it's just as well known for its pit-cooked chicken. In fact, they cook a couple of hundred chickens every day.
I think this is the best chicken I've ever eaten in a barbecue place.
Well, I've been in Virginia and South Carolina, but this is the best right here.
A lot of barbecue chicken that you find in eastern North Carolina is very vinegary and almost falling off the bone. This is a little firmer than that, has a very good smoky taste. It's delicious.
B's is near Greenville's big medical complex, so a lot of doctors and others who would warn you against eating barbecue regularly slip away to B's on the sly.
I don't eat that much barbecue, but when I do eat it, I enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
Because B's cooks whole pigs, they have ribs, but if you want some, you'll have to buy a whole pig's worth.
We decided to buy the whole set, so in just a minute we can share them with the crew. The most tender, flavorful part of the entire pig.
The word barbecue comes from a Caribbean Indian word, barbacoa, meaning a framework of sticks. Today we'd call it a grill. There are some who think it may have derived from the French barbe à queue, meaning beard to tail, the whole pig. Scholars ridicule that notion, but some notable barbecuers think it fits.
The old words, the nose to barb, the tail's to queue.
So it's the whole pig in order to have the genuine
whole pig
thing.
to have the genuine barbecue.
The concept of roasting meat slowly over beds of coals spread to America from the West Indies, but our native Indians were probably already teaching the practice to the early settlers. It sure caught on in North Carolina. In 1728, William Byrd of Virginia traveled one state south and wrote,
"The raising of hogs affords the diet they are most fond of. The truth of it is, the inhabitants of North Carolina devour so much swine's flesh that it fills them full of gross humors."
Well, okay, but at least we still have barbecue here. Try to find some in Virginia. In Ayden, near Greenville, Pete Jones's great-great-grandfather, Skilton Dennis, is said to have begun selling barbecue from a covered wagon as early as 1830. But barbecuing was really a private activity for the most part until there were enough automobiles to get people to the restaurants. A lot of today's best-known places got started during the transportation explosion right after World War II. For example, Parker's in Wilson began in 1946. It still occupies its original location along Highway 301. At that time, the main north-south artery through eastern North Carolina's tobacco country. Parker's built its reputation on pit cooking whole pigs over hardwood coals, but the restaurant switched to gas years ago. Parker's prepares very finely chopped barbecue seasoned with a fiery vinegar sauce. It's also known for corn sticks, fried chicken, and the consistent quality of its food.
And they helped make this restaurant famous.
In Albemarle, northeast of Charlotte, Whispering Pines Barbecue began in 1945. Levada Dobie, the widow of the founder, has, bless her soul, continued to cook over pure hickory coals. Most places in the Piedmont serve a sauce with tomato and sugar added to a spicy vinegar base, but at Whispering Pines, it's pretty much pepper and vinegar only. And this place serves the most generous serving of barbecue for the money in the entire state. Short Sugars in Reedsville is a quintessential drive-in built in 1949.
Now, before we tell you anything, you're probably going to want to know about the name of this place. So let me explain that one of the 3 original owners was short, and apparently the ladies thought he was kind of cute, hence the nickname Short Sugar.
Short Sugar, Eldridge Overby, died in a car wreck 2 days before the grand opening. But the place went on to become popular as a teenage hangout, and Short Sugars won a 1982 barbecue competition covering North and South Carolina. The meat is cooked over wood coals, and they only slice or chop what they need at the moment so it stays fresh. Have you noticed? Every one of these places is different, and that's part of the magic.
One of the main reasons we love talking about barbecue so much is that it represents one of the last remaining antidotes to the mind-numbing sameness of chain restaurants and fast food joints, a homogeneity that can suck all the color out of our travel. On the other hand, no food reflects local character like barbecue, or at least that's what we'd like to believe.
There is this need to define who we are as individuals in a mass culture. Seeking out the best barbecue could be a subconscious search for an identity rooted on the land, where great value is placed not only on independence and self-reliance, but also social intimacy and trust.
When people got together at the end of their crops, they cooked a hog, and they cooked it with open fires because they had no other way to do it. And it was a good time and a happy time. And really what barbecue comes down to is this, whether it's in the east or the west. It is a matter of having a good meal and some friendship and fellowship with the people in your community.
Linwood Parker is the owner of the White Swan in Smithfield.
The site of White Swan Barbecue has a colorful history. At one time, this was the location for the faintly notorious Flowers Tavern. There were 16 cabins lined up here along Highway 301. 4 of them are still standing back here. There was a combination roadhouse and restaurant of 2 stories where it was rumored that bootleg whiskey and even female companionship were occasionally available. Cleveland Holly bought the place in 1951, built the motel and the now famous White Swan Barbecue restaurant.
The White Swan has a tiny dining room that only seats 30, but it's a cheerful place, serving consistently moist, tender barbecue that's occasionally crunchy with brown outside bits. You'll want to add a splash of the house sauce, which is a typically Eastern hot, salty vinegar. And you may want a drop or 2 of that sauce on the piece of crisp pork skin that comes with every barbecue plate. The White Swan also serves fantastic fried chicken.
What the White Swan has become known for more than anything, though, are its hush puppies. I can honestly say I've never tasted a better hush puppy anywhere. They're light, ever so faintly sweet, crunchy on the outside, just perfect.
The barbecue at the Swan is no longer cooked over hardwood coals, unfortunately, but to Linwood Parker, that isn't the real issue anyway.
Now, where you cook it with fire, or you cook it with electricity, or where you cook it with gas, the real thing is that you cook it slow and tender, and then you season it right, and make sure that you feed people a good portion, and provide a lively atmosphere so that they can have a good time and visit with their friends, and you'll keep a full restaurant.
Does North Carolina have the world's best barbecue? Well, that depends on who you talk to. But North Carolina barbecue is certainly unlike any other. The meat itself is the centerpiece rather than the smoke, the pepper, or the sauce. The slow-roasted pork has a naturally rich, sweet taste which is delicately flavored by smoke, not overcome by it like something dragged from a burning house. Our sauces, east and west, are meant to merely add accent to the meat. They don't cling to it like wallpaper paste or smother it with the taste of ketchup, molasses, and liquid smoke. A couple of North Carolina expatriates have tried marketing our barbecue in New York City. Both of them made arrangements to get the barbecue from a place in Madison, north of Greensboro, named Fuzzy's. Fuzzy's serves a very moist barbecue because of the amount of sauce that's mixed into it when it's chopped. Most places in the Piedmont just ladle a little sauce over the meat right before it's served. You'll notice that Fuzzy's doesn't serve hush puppies. Instead, you get one long hush puppy and you can make it into as many as you like. Pinto beans are another popular item.
Now, as in so many barbecue places, banana pudding is the house specialty dessert here, and this is to die for. Look at the rich meringue on top of that.
By now, you will have deduced that there is a great schism in North Carolina between Eastern and Western styles of barbecue, involving what cuts of meat are cooked, what goes into the sauce, even what's to be eaten with barbecue. When you think about it, it's pretty tough to convince outsiders we have the world's best barbecue when we can't even agree on what good barbecue is. But then I guess you could say that we're just keeping a good family argument inside the state where we can get the maximum enjoyment out of it. And to heck with what outsiders think.
It's awful.
The barbecue that began in the earliest Virginia settlements and survived in eastern North Carolina is the original American barbecue. From the earliest days, whole pigs were roasted over pits dug into the ground into which oak or hickory coals were shoveled from a separate fire. In colonial days, people didn't eat tomatoes or put them in barbecue sauce because they thought they were poisonous. They seasoned their roast pig with a mixture of vinegar, salt, hot peppers, and oyster juice, which is pretty darn close to the eastern North Carolina barbecue sauce that's still used today.
We're not trying to hide the taste of the pork with tomato ketchup. What we're trying to do is to accent the barbecue, the pork with the vinegar and pepper.
In the East, barbecue is finely chopped and seasoned with vinegar, salt, and peppers before it's served, typically with one or more of the following side dishes: thick, sweet Brunswick stew, boiled potatoes, coleslaw moistened with either mayonnaise, mustard, or a little of both, and either baked cornbread, deep-fried hush puppies, or corn sticks that have been baked and fried. Bob Melton of Rocky Mount helped make eastern North Carolina barbecue famous. He began cooking pigs as a hobby in 1919 and opened his first restaurant in 1924. A rebuilt Melton stands beside the Tar River on the site of the original restaurant, which used to get customers in boats when the river flooded. The peaceful river view hasn't changed over the years, and the old-time customers swear the barbecue hasn't either.
I would think this is pretty indicative of good North Carolina, eastern North Carolina barbecue.
Almost like we cook on the farm.
Melton's barbecue now comes from pork shoulders cooked by gas rather than whole hogs cooked over coals, but it's well seasoned and seemingly as popular as ever. All the other items on the menu, including chicken and a wide variety of vegetables, are consistently good. No one knows exactly why a different barbecue tradition began further to the west in the Piedmont, but in this part of the state, for as long as anyone remembers, pork shoulders have been barbecued rather than the whole pig. By the time they got around to cooking barbecue in the Piedmont, folks had also learned that tomatoes were okay. So they started with the vinegar and pepper sauce of the East, added some tomato ketchup and a little sugar, and came up with a darker and slightly sweeter barbecue sauce favorite in the western half of North Carolina. Barbecue here is likely to be a little more chunky than it is in the East, and it isn't seasoned as it's chopped. A Piedmont barbecue tray will have only barbecue, hush puppies, and a reddish-colored coleslaw, moistened with the same ingredients that go into the barbecue sauce. Don't expect Brunswick stew or boiled potatoes because you'll rarely find them. Several outstanding Piedmont barbecue places trace their origins to one man, Warner Stamey, who, among other things, began Stamey's in Greensboro. Stamey learned the secret of what became known as Lexington-style barbecue in the 30s, directly from two of its originators, Jess Swicegood and Sid Weaver. Stamey eventually opened his Greensboro restaurant in 1953, and a newer building stands on the same spot.
We just still do it the way they were doing it back in the 30s. It's still wood cooked, same recipes, and it's always fresh. We cook every day.
On Stamey's 10 pits, the pork shoulders roast over pure hickory coals under the expert hand of longtime employee Lockie Reynolds. Inside the restaurant, you can enjoy the barbecue in little pieces or in big pieces.
Chopped or sliced, this is absolutely delicious barbecue. Perfect. Now, one of the things that has been around at Stamey's for a long time is homemade cobbler. This is peach cobbler with ice cream. Thank you. I can promise you that is worth the trip by itself.
After Warner Stamey learned his trade from Swicegood and Weaver in Lexington, and before he opened his Greensboro restaurant, he went to Shelby and opened a barbecue stand. It was there that he taught his barbecue secrets to two men whose restaurants are still legendary today in that region. One of them was his wife's brother, the founder of Alston Bridges Barbecue, which today is one of only a handful of places in North Carolina where a third generation is carrying on the family tradition. Alston Bridges' son, Kent, his wife, Linda, and three of the couple's 4 children, Jay, Reed, and Michelle, are all actively involved in the restaurant. Although the pork shoulders here start out on an electric cooker, they finish up on a traditional pit over hardwood coals. And the favorite implement used to test them for doneness has turned into a family heirloom.
This fork had been broken, and then they re-welded it. The handle part broke. And it seems like to be the only fork that really gives us a true feel of whether the meat's done. And we kind of get nicknamed the magic fork.
The regular barbecue plate at Alston Bridges comes with barbecue that's relatively finely chopped. They will do it more coarsely if you so desire. Sauce isn't actually added to the barbecue until it's put onto the plate. And you'll find that this barbecue has a more tart taste than a lot of Piedmont or Western style barbecue. The wood smoke taste comes through very strongly. Seasoned very well. That's delicious. Pork ribs are another item on the menu every day at Alston Bridges Barbecue. These are slow cooked until the meat is literally falling off the bone with a much sweeter sauce than is used on the regular barbecue. You want to be sure to try those.
Alston Bridges is the only traditional North Carolina barbecue place I've run across that serves pit-cooked racks of pork ribs. These aren't what we usually refer to as barbecue, but they are done in the traditional Lexington style with no basting while they're cooking. Warner Stamey also taught Red Bridges, founder of Bridges Barbecue Lodge in Shelby, and no relation to Alston. Red Bridges used to manage the catering before he died in the mid-60s, but his wife, Lytle, known as Mama B, has always run the restaurant, which has a woman's touch all over it. Look at those clean floors, the little green teapots brought to every table, and that neatly stacked wood pile. This, on the other hand, is a man's wood pile.
I like work, and I keep busy. I think that's the main thing, and that's the reason I was so prosperous.
There's one mother-daughter twosome that shows up Wednesday through Sunday, week after week.
And the only reason you don't come on Monday and Tuesday?
They're closed. That's right. There's nobody like Bridges Barbecue.
This sauce is really tangy and is thicker than a lot that you find in the Piedmont. It's also served warm, which is fairly unusual for barbecue places. The sweetness of the meat itself, plus the tangy sauce, offset by that very vinegary, very tart coleslaw, makes a Bridges barbecue sandwich an incredible experience. That is so good.
Warner Stamey also taught his pit cooking skills to the man generally acknowledged as the king of the Lexington-style barbecuers, the owner of Lexington Barbecue. Wayne Monk is a man who can take a pork shoulder apart like a puzzle.
Get the excess fat out of it, pretty it up a little bit,
ready to go. That'll make a beautiful plate right there. That is your beautiful lean slice.
The downright beautiful pork shoulders at Lexington Barbecue roast for 10 hours over oak and hickory coals, which are scattered under the cooking meat every 30 minutes or so.
That's good, good consistency right there.
Once the meat is pulled off the bone, it's served both chopped, chunky or regular, your choice, and sliced.
And for the ultimate in flavor, order the sliced brown. This is the crusty outside meat. The texture is chewy, and that intense smoky flavor will remind you of campfire smoke from when you were a kid. Now, all the barbecue comes with the regular dip on it, which is wonderful, but if you like it just a little bit hotter, try the Smokehouse barbecue sauce. This is a secret recipe that only Wayne Monk knows, and in fact, this is the only place in the world where this sauce is available.
They moved the Interstate 85 bypass away from Monk's restaurant several years ago, but the world still beats a path to the door of Lexington Barbecue. And if you were only going to sample one place in the Piedmont, this would be the one. It isn't as though Monk has no competition. Lexington is a town of around 17,000 people, and at last count it had 20 barbecue restaurants. That's one for every 850 residents, making it second nationally in barbecue restaurants per capita. Lexington is also home to one of the biggest barbecue festivals in the eastern United States. It's actually sort of a recreation of public cookouts from the early 1900s, known as Everybody's Day, that helped introduce barbecue to the folks around Lexington. The custom was brought back in 1984 as a handful of top restaurant operators sought a way to minimize the competition between themselves and to promote Lexington barbecue as a distinctive regional delicacy. Crowds exceeding 100,000 will typically consume nearly 15,000 pounds of barbecue during the festival. There's no escaping the fact that thousands of North Carolinians smack their lips every day over so-called barbecue that's never been anywhere near a wood-burning pit. Agriculture Department rules say you can't label cooked pork packaged for sale in a store as barbecue if it's been cooked by gas or electricity. But those rules don't apply to restaurants. Restaurant owners sometimes use local health department rules as an excuse for switching to gas or electricity, but the fact is that once a place has already been cooking with wood, it's nearly always allowed to continue. The bottom line is that restaurants usually switch so they can turn out more barbecue with less expense and make more money. A lot of customers apparently like electric or gas-cooked barbecue just as well as the pit-cooked variety, as long as it's seasoned well. That seems to be especially true in eastern North Carolina, since most barbecue places in the coastal plain have abandoned hardwood coals without complaint from their patrons. Wilbur's in Goldsboro is one of only a handful of eastern establishments that still cooks its barbecue the old-fashioned way.
You know, most restaurant owners who have the kind of volume Wilbur Shirley enjoys would have switched long ago to another method of cooking barbecue. He says he just prefers the slow roasting over oak coals, and the proof is in the taste of the meat. It's moist, juicy, and deeply flavored with that wonderful smoky taste that you just can't get with a gas or electric cooker.
66-year-old Ike Green has been cooking pigs for Wilbur Shirley for 28 years now. Every night he builds a fire in the large outdoor fireplace and patiently fires the pits, one shovelful at a time, all night long. He says he got started as a teenager when he went to an older man's house to help him cook a pig.
We started cooking the pig and he got drunk. He went to sleep and I finished cooking him. And that morning, when I got him done, his wife and her sister came out and looked at the pig and said it was pretty, you know.
Wilbur's gets a lot of beach traffic in the summertime, and on Labor Day weekend, he'll usually cook 150 pigs. Down the road from Wilbur's and under the flight pattern for jets from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, McCall's Barbecue and Seafood is a relatively new restaurant with an innovative approach. They finish off their whole pigs on an open wood-fired pit, but first the meat cooks on a revolving set of racks, sort of like a Ferris wheel, inside this stainless steel chamber. Smoke and heat come from a firebox where charcoal or wood is ignited by gas flames. Another traditional spot, the Skylight Inn in Ayden near Greenville.
At the very least, Pete and Jeff Jones consider their place the national capital of barbecue. Actually, that dome went up after National Geographic magazine crowned this the world champion barbecue place back in 1980. And when the wind is blowing from the direction of the barbecue pits like it is now, the air is downright sensual with the aroma of crisp, brown, succulent roast pig.
The only secret I can say is it's the wood. The wood is what makes it true barbecue. That's your natural flavor.
The barbecue itself is extremely moist, it's very finely chopped, and it's pure. There are not a lot of extraneous flavors. And I don't know how exactly you describe the taste of smoke, but believe me, every particle of this meat is absolutely saturated with the very essence of wood smoke.
Pete Jones has appeared on national programs, been in magazines, served a bunch of presidents, but there are no fancy airs put on at his place. You get barbecue, slaw, and a square of baked cornbread, period.
Everything there is to drink is served in bottles. And if you want dessert, well, you amble over to the rack in the corner and make a choice. We suggest an oatmeal cookie or maybe a fig cake. In LaGrange, near Kinston, Ken's Grill is one of those little places you could easily blow past on US 70 without noticing. Ken's barbecue is cooked on an electric grill, but it's perfectly seasoned and his customers rave about it. Ken's only cooks barbecue on Wednesday and Saturday, but he'll usually have some crisp pork skins for you to enjoy along with the barbecue.
That is very good.
Stevenson's in Willow Springs, south of Raleigh, cooks pork shoulders over hardwood charcoal, leaving them on the pit overnight after they finish cooking to absorb more of the wood flavor. This restaurant has a wide variety of other outstanding home-cooked foods on the menu, including chicken and pastry. Up in Lexington, Sonny Conrad's Barbecue Center still takes pride in cooking pork shoulders the right way on their old-fashioned pits. As in all the Lexington places, you'll get your order with hush puppies and red slaw, and you should definitely try a banana split for dessert. Carolina Country Barbecue in Gastonia has kind of an upscale ranch house look to it. The pork shoulders are cooked until nearly done on an electric cooker, then left over a wood pit to smoke for a while. The barbecue sandwiches feature meat that's attractively chunky, and Gastonians swear by this place. There are no electric cookers at Log Cabin Barbecue in Albemarle, just chopped pork shoulders slow cooked over real hardwood coals. The sandwiches are topped with a very tart vinegary slaw. Just up Highway 52 in Granite Quarry, Moran and Kathy Thomas also do things the old-fashioned way at M&K Barbecue and Country Cookin'. Moran's father cooked barbecue for a living, and the son came back to it after years of truck driving. The wood barbecue's the real thing here, and so are all the other dishes. Bill Gold, who owns Hickory Log Barbecue in Forest City, says he has one of the largest barbecue catering businesses west of Charlotte.
He's not one to argue barbecue, but he says he'll put his hush puppies up against anyone's. And that's great. That is one of the best hush puppies I've ever had.
Barbecue has often provided opportunities for interracial respect in North Carolina. In fact, the state's first sit-down barbecue restaurant was opened in 1917 by a black man, Adam Scott of Goldsboro. He turned the back porch of his home into a dining room, and black and white citizens stood together in line across his backyard waiting to get in. Today, Scott's is still a successful minority-owned restaurant where the races cheerfully mingle. Scott's is probably best known around the state for its commercially distributed sauce. Adam Scott claimed the recipe came to him in a dream.
A man who had broken into the restaurant once jumped into a barrel of this sauce to hide from police who were searching for it. Now this is hot. It will burn your skin as well as your tongue. And by the time they got him out of that barrel, he was on fire. The police wouldn't let the man shower. The next morning, Mr. Scott refused to press charges, saying the man had suffered enough.
Scott's cooks whole pigs on a gas cooker and serves up a moist, tender barbecue that's very lightly seasoned.
People tend to have different tastes about what they like. Some of them like it mild, some of them don't like much salt or pepper in it and this type thing. And We keep it pretty light. It's not heavily seasoned.
So you depend basically on the sauce to let people get the barbecue seasoned just the way they like it?
Right, that's for sure. Sure do.
You'll want to make sure you shake Scott sauce thoroughly to blend all those peppers and spices that tend to settle to the bottom like fine sediment. Respect between the races also came into play at Hersey's Barbecue in Burlington. When Charles Hersey was just out of high school and going into his family's business full-time, he had to confront some of the Jim Crow customs still being practiced.
In 1960, I had some black folks coming into the back door, and they made an order, and I told them, I said, well, if you don't mind, how about just come on in the front and place your order there? And they said, you got to be kidding. I said, no. I said, that's why my customers comes in the front door.
From then on, blacks and whites rubbed elbows comfortably at Hersey's, and his fair treatment of his customers was remembered a few years later when a virtual race riot broke out all around his business.
And the next day, we came back to work, and every store down there the windows was broken out or some kind of problem we wouldn't even touch. You know, we treat everybody fair and right, like it's supposed to be.
Charles Hersey's children are the fourth generation of Hersey's to cook barbecue. His parents started out in the little metal shed, and his mother used to make wholesale deliveries in the station wagon there. Charles switched to electric cookers at one point, but came back to wood.
That's what our customers want. They like to smell the smoke, they like to see the smoke, and it would be easier to put all electric pits in, but it's just what our customer wants, that's what we want to give them.
Hersey's has fed Presidents Reagan, Bush, and Clinton, and won the 1984 Barbecue Bowl competition covering North and South Carolina. Charles Hersey says his sauce is a blend of Eastern and Piedmont influences. His father won the recipe to a competitor's sauce in a poker game, combining it with his own to create what is still served today.
A fellow from Burlington went to Japan and took a job and was invited to a dinner party by his boss, a Japanese businessman. Later in the evening, the man brought out something he said was only unveiled on very special occasions. It turned out to be a jar of Hersey's barbecue sauce.
Protestant Christianity and barbecue are two strong cultural influences in North Carolina which have become intertwined from time to time in both the African American and white communities. Adam Scott, whom we've already met, was not only a barbecuer but a holiness preacher as well. Henry Evans was a black Methodist preacher who came to Fayetteville in 1775. He used to hold large outdoor meetings where pigs were barbecued to feed the congregation, and both the barbecue and the preaching were so popular that he became a beloved pastor to both black and white parishioners. Evans brought Methodism to Cumberland County, and one of the largest Fayetteville churches is named for him. Since folks have such dogmatic opinions about both religion and barbecue, it certainly seems appropriate that there is a Barbecue Presbyterian Church, founded in Harnett County in 1757. A Scottish explorer said mist rising from a nearby stream reminded him of smoke from barbecue pits he had seen in the West Indies. Much of the Lord's work over the years has unquestionably been performed with funds raised from barbecue. Mallard Creek Presbyterian Church near Charlotte has a huge barbecue each fall that raises over $500,000. Since it occurs just before election time, it also brings out a swarm of political candidates armed with campaign literature. They're like a gauntlet you have to run through to reach the barbecue. In fact, politics and barbecue have been inescapably linked for a long time in North Carolina, and probably no more so than in the late 30s and early 40s, the heyday of the political caravan, a whole group of campaigning politicians traveling in cars and buses. The caravans would pull into town for a series of speeches followed by a barbecue feed and handshaking. Longtime Secretary of State Thad Ure said they'd advertise barbecue so much that whenever the caravans came along, all the pigs and hogs would see them coming and run away to hide. And another Secretary of State, Rufus Edmiston, says he still thinks he lost the 1984 governor's race as a result of being overheard saying he was sick of barbecue. At old-time barbecues held as political gatherings or maybe to celebrate putting in a tobacco crop, the meat was always chopped and served to the guests. No self-respecting host would have expected the guests to pull the meat from the bone with their fingers. But a somewhat recent offshoot of the barbecue is the pig picking, where guests are encouraged to find the most delectable morsels of meat on a whole roasted pig and pick them off themselves. You might think this is an activity designed by and for lowbrows, but don't you believe it. Pig pickings are equally popular among the hoi polloi and the good old boys. You might want to consider investing some time in preparing your own barbecue occasionally. For one thing, this delicacy is at its absolute peak of succulence when it's pulled still steaming right off the bone. Also, the all-day process of preparing barbecue is one of the most perfect focal points for spending a leisurely day in the company of friends. While the meat is slowly roasting, there's plenty of time for joke-telling and serious conversation, and a handful of people can easily prepare a feast for 50 or more.
This is the kind of cooker you'll want to cook a whole pig. There are a lot fancier models out there, but really this is all you need. This is made from a converted 250-gallon oil drum. Now, you may have a friend who will let you borrow his, or there are several places where you can rent one.
You'll need about 60 pounds of high-quality charcoal. Start off by lighting an entire 20-pound bag of briquettes in the cooker. You can get a pig suitable for barbecuing from a meat packing house, a barbecue wholesaler, or a supermarket. Ask for one weighing about 80 pounds dressed and have them split the backbone so the pig will lie flat on the grill. When the coals are covered with gray ash, spread them with a garden hoe in an even layer across the floor of the cooker. The coals shouldn't touch or be piled on one another. Then carry the pig over and place it skin side up in the center of the grill, making sure it's spread out flat. Use a second grill to light additional coals. You'll need to add 5 pounds of fully lit coals to the cooker every 45 minutes or so. Divide these evenly beneath the hams and shoulders of the pig, but don't add any more coals under the center of the meat for now. Except for the minutes right after you've added coals, you should see only heat waves and maybe just a wisp of smoke from the smokestack. Heavy smoke in between the addition of coals means the temperature is too high. You should also be able to place your palm on the lid for 1 or 2 seconds. If the fire's too hot, close the ventilation doors tight for a few minutes. After 6 hours, an 80-pound pig will be nearly done and ready to turn meat side up. Some cookers come equipped with double grills for this purpose, and even then it isn't any too easy. If you won't have a double grill, I'd suggest you order your pig cut in half lengthwise so it will be easier to turn without having it fall apart. This is the way you want the meat to appear, golden brown with no burn spots. Once the pig is turned, spread a final 10 pounds of lighted coals evenly under the pig, including the center, so the skin will brown and the meat will finish cooking. Squirt margarine from a squeeze bottle over the entire surface of the pig to help glaze and soften the meat. Finally, baste the pig thoroughly with sauce and let it cook for a final hour. Here's an easy basting sauce recipe. To 1 gallon of apple cider vinegar, add a bottle of Kraft regular barbecue sauce. Add half of a 3-ounce bottle of crushed red pepper. Next, salt, about a tablespoon or to your taste. And a 3-ounce bottle of Texas Pete. Finally, a couple of sticks of butter. Let all that heat up thoroughly and you'll be ready to baste the pig.
Now, if cooking a whole pig is a little more than you feel like you'd like to tackle, you can make great barbecue at home using an ordinary pork picnic cut from the shoulder and a covered kettle grill.
To start, you'll need about 5 pounds of briquettes. Put a few in the center and push the rest to either side of the grill. Add a couple of dry hickory chunks, not chips, on top of each pile of briquettes. Salt the meat side of a 6 to 7 pound picnic generously and place it on the grill meat side down. This is so the fat will drip all the way through the meat. Put the cover on, leaving the ventilation holes completely open. Every half hour, add around 6 coals to each side and add a couple more hickory chunks to each pile. After 5.5 or 6 hours, turn the shoulder so that the meat side's facing up and continue adding coals and wood as before. After 8 hours of slow cooking on the grill, the shoulder will be ready. The skin should lift off in one piece. After trimming off any remaining fat, use your hands to tear the meat in chunks off the bone. Then chop it to the consistency you like with a heavy cleaver, ladle on your favorite sauce, and you're all set. For many barbecue cooks, laid-back pig pickings have been replaced by extremely competitive pig cooking contests with big cash prizes. These are primarily an eastern North Carolina passion since they involve cooking the whole pig. The biggest one is held each year in Newport, my family's hometown. Contestants are often equipped with shiny, custom-built cookers, and some even dress in costumes or put up elaborate sets. There's even a day-long school to certify contest judges, of which I'm a graduate. There are elaborate score sheets, and judges are taught how to literally tear into a roasted pig, checking for the doneness of the meat and the crispness of the skin. When it comes to tasting, experienced judges take small bites, so it's easy to spot the novices.
When you're tasting pig, it's important to know when to stop. I have trouble with that one.
There's a lot of hot, dirty, back-breaking work involved in cooking great barbecue, and the hours are nothing short of brutal. As you've seen, the bonds of family are often required to hold a business together through the years. Jimmy's Barbecue in Lexington is one more place where family ties are a key ingredient to success. Owner Jimmy Harvey has a wife, 2 daughters, 2 sons, and 5 grandchildren working with him on a regular basis. And this extended family even vacations together on those rare occasions when they aren't working. Jimmy's is especially known for his barbecue sauce or dip, which is spirited stuff, more laced with pepper than most other Lexington sauces. You can special order brown outside meat, and on the days when he cooks his trademark grilled chicken, you can hardly get into the place. Allen & Son, near Chapel Hill, is a place where the barbecue is cooked uncompromisingly in the old way.
If you're going to do this barbecue this way, you're going to have to work at it. This is not a game, and it's not something you're going to do in an easy manner if you're going to do it right. So we started out this way, and we're going to continue this way along we cook barbecue, and we quit doing it this way, and then we're just going to quit, pull the name off the sign, and go home.
One thing I like about the barbecue here is that it's not too finely chopped, kind of coarse and chunky. But the thing I really like is that that is the genuine hickory cooked article.
Keith Allen often locates and hauls his own hickory wood, and it gets cut up and split by hand. But all the extra work turns out pork shoulders with a dark, robust hickory flavor that's unmatched anywhere else.
Of all the barbecue places I visited in North Carolina, this is the first one I've seen that goes to the trouble to make real homemade French fries. That's worth the trip in right there.
Allen & Son also has wonderful homemade desserts. I sampled pecan pie and vanilla ice cream.
The ice cream has that icy, slightly grainy consistency of all good homemade ice cream. And the pecan pie, what can I say, out of this world.
Barbecue seems to be as popular as ever, but the old ways are slowly dwindling. Many of the die-hard barbecuers who still cook with wood have a pit man who's been with them for years and who will be extremely hard to replace when he's gone. For instance, what will Wilbur Shirley do without Ike Green?
Well, he might have to close up because he ain't gonna get nobody. I mean, I haven't seen nobody yet, you know. This young generation coming up is faithful, you know, would work and stay right, you know, with it like I do.
It takes a lot of commitment to run a place like this. And a lot of our younger generations are looking for an easier way to do it, an easier way to make a living, I guess you'd say. The days of the places hand-me-down, the family staying in it, is probably decreasing.
I don't foresee the future generations wanting to jump into this line of working aspect. They're more into volume and computers and that kind of thing, and the craft of it's going to be history when the old hearts go away with it.
This is a part of our heritage that can't be preserved in a museum. It has to be experienced firsthand. I hope you'll find time to enjoy it while there are folks keeping the fires alive, and before it someday simply vanishes like smoke.